This is Lisa Beaudoin. Today I'm going to show you how to create a Google Sheet on the Google Drive. I have my Gmail open, and what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be going up to this Google Apps menu. There are like 9 little dots, clicking that and clicking the Drive icon. After I click the icon, my dashboard for the Drive will open up, and there's all kinds of things I can do on here, but I'm going to stay focused. And first of all, I'm going to create a folder. Say I am making something for, I don't know, we'll say I'm making an inventory sheet, or maybe I'm doing a salary sheet. Let's do that one. So I'm going to name it Google Sheets folder. This folder is going to be a salary calculations. Okay. So what's happened is on my dashboard, you can see my salary calculations folder. So I'm going to click on that because I want to put the Google Sheets into that folder. And I'm going to click New, Google Sheets. I'm going to go to the option of blank spreadsheet. Now what's going to happen is the application is going to open up. I have an outer framework to the Google Sheet application. So let's talk about that framework first before we get into the actual canvas, you can call it. So here we've got your title, your text menus, and your icon menus. And then you've got some things over here, and you've got tabs down here. Now, some of you may be aware of how this works, but I'm going to just walk through it a little bit so there's a little bit of we're all on the same page. So for the title, say I'm creating a salary sheet. What I'm going to do is I'm going to say it's version 22, and today's March 6th, version 1 of this sheet. And then maybe I'll say Google Sheet salary calculation. Once I press enter, it's going to save it for me. Voila. Now, I may want all my staff to see this, and we may be on the same page where I say, I want everyone to see this, and I'm going to keep this highlighted until everyone does see this. So I can also open all the comments when people make comments on it, and I can present it as a meeting. I can also share it. And then I have my little icon information over here about me and my Gmail account. So then I have my text menu, and my text menu is basically the topics of each category. So file, anything having to do with your file system is in here. The first thing I would do is once I'm done creating this file sheet, I would make a copy, and I would actually write GSC for GS Google Sheet copy so that I know which one I'm looking for. And then also too, I would have it where when I'm creating the sheet, this is version 1. However, if I make changes or, I'm making some really big change or something that's going to be new to the employees, then I would put version, and I would leave this or maybe change this to the date and then 2, but keep this the same. Always keep something the same so that you can see and you can track it within the folder, right? So again, here is the text menus. You can make a copy, you can download it to Excel and all these other applications. I'm not going to get into that today. Editing, undo, redo, cut, copy, paste, paste special, delete. These keys you use a lot, the hotkeys. You'll use Control Z and Y, X, C, and V constantly, and I'll be using them as we move forward in this video. View, this makes it where you can see the full screen. So if I click View, I can hide all the menu items in the title, and if I press Escape, it all opens up. I can also hide the title and the text menu by hitting the caret, and I can open it up again by hitting it again. Very nice. For maximizing the screen or zooming in, I press Control plus, and I can zoom in on the entire screen, Control minus to zoom out. But I can also go to View, Zoom, or even better, I can go to the icon, and I can either use the pre-selected or maybe I want to do my own size, right? So that's really important to me. I have yet to find in another application I use the control and the mouse wheel, And as yet, I haven't found that here. So it's a little cumbersome, but it's still a great program because you can share it with everybody in your company. All right. Each person could have a Gmail account and you could share it that way. But you can also, as far as I know, you can, Google accounts do not have to use a gmail.com address. So I'm not sure exactly how that works. You could do some research on it. I do share files with other people that don't have a Google account. Personally, I think anybody in my company would have to have one. It should be private and kept. All that information should be kept within the company parameters. All right. So moving along, we've got edit. We've got all those things I just talked about. We have view, and I'll be going into some of this. We talked about the full screen, insert. So everything that has to do, any type of feature they have that has to do with inserting is here, and so on and so forth. Okay. Icon menus. It's basically some of the stuff from here. Okay. Put into an easier way of catching on to it. And if you notice, if I click the caret, it kind of changes this whole thing. So I will leave this open for now, and because I'm going to be using some of the things in here. Okay. So that's the top frame work of Google Sheets. Now the bottom framework is in Google Sheets. It's different than Google Docs or anything else because what it does is it contains more than one sheet, and each sheet has a tab, and the tab is basically a hyperlink to that sheet. So tab 1 is the hyperlink to this particular sheet, and I'm going to just name this tab 1 or sheet 1. Okay. And I'm going to name this, I'm going to rename this, right click, and I'm going to name it sheet 1, right? So, and if you notice when I hit the tab, I right click and I can duplicate it, copy it to a newer existing spreadsheet, rename it, change the color. So maybe we'll make this purple. I can also hide it, right? I can't hide the first sheet that's on there. I can hide the second sheet. I'll show you that in a minute. And then view comments, move right, move left. Okay. So here to add another sheet, I click the plus icon, and now I have sheet 2. So I'm going to write sheet 2 up here. I'm going to rename this. Okay. And maybe I'll make this one purple. And really, it does help in business sense to have things color coded. It does work very well. So now when I'm on sheet 1, it's moving me to the sheet 1. And then here on sheet 2, the hyperlink is moving me to sheet 2. Okay. Also too, there is a tab menu. So what I can do is I can hide this sheet. You can't hide the first sheet after the first sheet. I can hide that sheet, and then I can go in the tab menu and I can see it, and I can select it, and it will open it up again. So I do have that option of doing it that way. So here I can move the tabs back and forth as well as hide them. There is nothing that I know of that expands this. So if you have multiple, many tabs, the best bet for me is just hiding the ones that I don't use and then just opening them up when I need them. Over here, we have the Explore, which is kind of like the help file in a way. And then here we have a toggle that toggles open my drive menus and closes it. Okay. So now moving into the Canvas part of this application, we have the cell reference and the formula bar, and we have the spreadsheet or the sheet. It's the worksheet, they call it, or sheet. The names are variable names. They've changed ever since I started. I started way back before they had this. So, but basically, to me, what it is a worksheet is a completely blank canvas where a spreadsheet has information on it, some type of formulation, and a table is actually a real structured formulation. Sometimes I'll call it a spreadsheet, even if it's not that structured, or the general term. But when I'm making, say like a dashboard, I'll make a dashboard out of the first sheet. I'll create clusters. That's what I call them. And then I will have something that joins, they're all joined together. So there's like these different subjects that come together depending on what the topic is. So we have the fields and we have the records. The fields are the columns. The records are the rows. And each cell has an intersection between a column and a row. So I am now on A1, as you can see. Now, if I wanted to, I could go up into my cell reference box and I could go D5 and it'll move me over to D5. Right? I can also just click over there, or I could use my arrow keys to get up and down. Right? Oftentimes I use a variety of both. So now that I have that, each cell has what they call a format. And formats are very, very important, especially when you're starting to work with formalizations, like creating time worksheets and whatnot. It is very, I wouldn't say confusing, but very detailed. You have to really kind of know what you're doing in order to create a really nice timesheet in any application like this. So, but a data format, what that will do is it will tell the application what type of format the cell is. So let's just go over here and I'm going to come down here. I'm going to type Lisa. I'm going to type Todd and Bob. Okay. So as you can see, these are on the left, which means the application is thinking that this is a text value, right? These are text values in here. And you can also see it up at the formula bar, by the way. So the problem is, or what I find is I like to let the computer know what I want that format to be. So I go into the format icon and I'm going to make it where it's plain text. This is going to be my header row. So I'm going to put name here, right? And then here I'm going to put salary. Here I'm going to put hours. And I'm going to clean this up a little bit by clicking on that first cell, holding my shift, moving over with my mouse to the C1 cell. And then I'm going to go in and make that centered. Right? Then I'm going to put, maybe I make 15 an hour. Maybe they make 18 an hour. Maybe they make 12 an hour. Okay. Now what I'm going to do, if you've noticed, the computer automatically calculates this to be a format of a number. So I wanted to see it as a currency. So I highlighted it and I'm going to click this icon. I could just go in here too and find currency. Right. Now I'm going to tell them how many hours. So maybe I worked 6 hours, maybe Todd worked 3 hours, and maybe Bob worked 7 hours. Right. So here you can see the computer is kind of showing you what it thinks you want that format to be. So on the right are numbers and currency, and on the left is text. So I'm going to take this and I'm actually going to center it because I like them in the middle. Okay. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take and make a line here. Go right here. Okay. Because this is where the pattern stops. So some people would make this into a bordered area. Technically, it is a table without named ranges. So what I'm going to do as well is I'm going to highlight, and I could highlight any color I want, right? Now I'm going to freeze it because otherwise what happens is as I'm scrolling down and adding more people, I can't see the header row. So I'm going to go to View, Freeze, up to row 1. And what will happen now is that header row will stay and I'll be moving up and down. So next is to add another piece of information into this little spreadsheet that we're creating here. And I'm going to highlight column C, right click, and I'm going to copy. And I'm going to go over here and I'm going to paste. But I could go like this. I could highlight here, press Control C, highlight the column D, and press Control V. And it's going to paste all that information. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to write total. Now I'm going to delete all these out and I'm going to create a formula. Now, a formula is basically some type of calculation, and the most basic ones you're going to see are equals sum. All formulas start with an equal sign. So if you use an equal sign, it's going to automatically think that you're putting in a formula. A little side note here is that if you don't want it to think it's formula, you put an apostrophe before it. So you could put equals Lisa And what you will see is this is the value. Okay, here's the formula bar. And technically you see the apostrophe up here, but you don't see it down here. Okay, but you would see it if you did a filter. This is the value. Okay, so but if I go equals sum, which is the most common formula they use, it's going to automatically think I want to add these two together, but I don't. I want to multiply them. So I'm just going to take and go like this and then like this. Now what will happen is because I've created these patterns, the application automatically thinks that I want to run this formula down to the end of the pattern. So I press yes. So now I have a nice little spreadsheet. So if I change the hours, it's going to change the amounts there based on salary. It's taking this and multiplying by that. Nice, right? Now I want to add all of this together. So I'm going to take and I'm going to create another formula, but this time I'm going to run down what they call the range. So I've ran the range and the range is D2 through D4. I'm going to center this because I like things centered. So here I've got the total is $198. So here the pattern is different than this pattern, right? That's something you need to know. So what's going to happen is, say I want this in order. I click the first cell. I go down to the last cell within that little cluster, and I've created what they call a range. This is the range that I'm creating, right? And I'm going to go to data. I'm going to go to sort range, advanced sorting options. Data has a header. I want it to be the name and I want it to be ascending. So now my names are ascending, right? Now, what I can do is I can go in here. I could either create a first and last name column, or I could go in here and I could just go up to the formula bar and put Bob Nelson. Bob. And I don't know these people. This is just mock-up. I'm trying not to write people that I know. So now I've got that. Now I'm going to do another data sort. Here we go, advanced, data has headers. Then I see that it's the name, and voila, now I've got it in order alphabetically. So what if someone starts and their last name is D? I could either insert a row right here above, or I could insert a row below here, which is what I'm going to do. Now, the other thing I wanted to talk about here is I could insert a row below this one. And what will happen is it will take the format, but it doesn't take the formulas. And the reason that is because it's not a named ranged table. So it won't do that. In order to do that, you could create what they call an array formula, which is a lot more complex than for another video, but another easy way to do it and grab those formulas is by pressing on the row, Control C, go down to the next row, Control V. I've put that in, and then I'm just going to rewrite, what did I say, D? Del, Julie. And then I'm just going to change this to whatever I need to, and maybe Julie worked 7 hours. So now I've changed my little table, and voila, it's all done, right? So you can see now that there is a definite pattern evolving here. Here are the fields, and here are the records. The fields are the patterns, right? The categories, and the records are the variables, and all together creates a pattern of calculation, right? So the next thing I want to talk about is we're going to do a filter. And then I think we're going to be done. So I'm going to do a filter. I'm going to highlight. Now I could have just pressed on the left header, and this is called the header, and I could hold shift and arrow over as much as I need. And then I'm going to press data, create a filter. Now there's other ways of doing it. You can create a filter in here as well, but I just do it this way. And now what happens is you'll see a filter icon, and that filter icon, you can click on it and it's going to give you some options in the filter menu. it will say by color, by condition, or by value. I don't ever use the color. I think color is a nice way to code things, but I just get a little nervous about using it for color because the idea is to lessen any kind of mistakes and to be able to see patterns and kind of judge. It's that, I just entered the information. That's the data entry part of it. And now I'm going to be doing the speculative part of it, the supervisorial part, the managerial part of it. So I'm going to take and I'm going to go in here, and the color I wouldn't do because there's too much room for error, but I would filter on condition and by values. So the values are these, whatever the value is in this column will be the values. So if you look down here and you go down here, you'll see the values. This does not mean clear the filter. This means clear the values. So I can clear the values. Maybe I just want to see my own. And then I press OK. You must press OK to get the filter going. Now you can see that the filter's on and that it's just selected me. To select everybody in the values, I select all. I can also just start to type and my name will come up, and then I can do it that way as well. For the conditions are is empty, isn't empty, it contains, starts with, it's exactly, and this is for date as well, which is the last thing I'm going to show you on here for today. And then a custom formula. So here I can see that the filter's on. I'm going to select all and I'm going to press OK. I scroll down to the OK, right? The other thing about the freezing I wanted to mention is if you notice there's a scroll bar here, so you can scroll up and down, and there's a scroll bar here. You can add rows, you can delete them. So I can go here, scroll all the way over, shift, click, right click, and then delete. So I don't have all that stuff all over the place. You can add rows. It's pretty easy to add columns and rows. For the rows, you can say we want to get rid of all these rows. We just don't need them. I can delete those rows, right? So now what I can do is I can say, I want maybe 10. And what will happen is I'll get 10 more rows. Again, the only drawback, the setback, is when I insert a cell, but I create formula arrays to try to handle that situation. The last thing that I am going to talk about with the filters is you can see that there's like a little box around the filters. Not sure if you can see that. If I insert a column to the left, you can definitely see that there's a box. If you take and you undo the filter, the box goes away. So you should know that. So now I'm going to add to this little spreadsheet one more thing, and I'm going to put date. Okay, so I just want to show you how the date works. Now here I'm going to double check and make sure that this is in date format. And when I do that, what will happen is it'll move it to the right. The nice thing about this is to change the date, I could either go back in and change it by hand, or I can go up here and change it by hand, change a part of it if I needed to, which I use all the time, or I can double click on it and it will open up the date picker and I can just pick the date and it'll change it for me. So there's 3 different ways that I know so far. And then here, what I will do is I will highlight this. I will add my filter. Okay. And I'm going to do a filter by condition. I want to see all the salaries, and we're pretending, okay, this is mock data, but I want to see everything for the month of March. So I'm going to put date is between March 1st, 2022 and March 31st, 2022, which is the whole month. I'm going to go down here. I'm going to just not look at this. I'm going to press OK. And now it's bringing me all of March's. Always, always, when you're done with things, make sure that you put them the way you found them by removing the filters and making sure everything's copacetic. I think you can see that by using the Google Sheet, what happens is you are removing those redundant practices that you need to have put in place, and you are creating an awareness within the spreadsheet that you can look at. And what is the point of it? It's to calculate so that you don't have to, but it's also to find errors. So you can find errors very quickly. You can look at the dates and pan over while you're doing the record. And you can also pan down once you're finished just to kind of see. So like say I had a thumb error and I put 117. Well, now you can see that person, I made an error in their pay. So I can move it down. And that's the whole point, is to get yourself that awareness of looking in and seeing it and then being able to calculate it and use those upper skills, the management, the directorship, and even the ownership, the CEO and the CFO skills that you need to incorporate into your business. So that's it for this video. I hope you liked it. Until the next video, please stay safe, stay healthy, and I'll see you again next time in Lisa's chat room.